Good evening. Welcome to a very special edition of Focus on Hopkins County. I'm your host, Tim Thomas, and we're certainly glad you joined us for this edition of our program. We are so honored to have in our studios the Honorable Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Lieutenant Governor Luallen. And we're going to be having a one-on-one conversation with her as we talk about the various issues that face us here in the Commonwealth. She is here not only to appear on this program, but she is here to speak to the Madisonville Noon Kiwanis Club and recognize 40 youth organizations across Hopkins County that has given service to youth. So we're certainly glad to have her with us on today. Lieutenant Governor, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Tim. It's great to be here.
It's once again, you've been with us before, back in 2003, I think.
And again after that,
yes.
At some point. So yeah. I've been here a couple of times.
That's right. Glad to have you so much. Let's talk about your career in general as we begin to talk about. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the world of politics.
Well, Tim, I didn't have a real strategic plan for my career. I'm a good poster child for having a broad liberal arts background. I went to Center College in Danville. I grew up in Frankfort and went to Center College, and I was an art major. But I hadn't really given a lot of thought to how that was going to translate into a career. So when I got out of school, I was looking for a job, and I took a temporary position in the mailroom of the U.S. Senate race that year. Wendell Ford was governor. He was running for the U.S. Senate. And it turned out that he was a great mentor to me and to all the young people around him. And in that campaign, Wendell Ford said to me, in public service, you can make a difference. And he really got me thinking about a life and career in the public arena. I hadn't thought about it much. So I did go on to stay involved in that campaign, and then into the next one when Governor Carroll had to run for a full term to fill out, after he had filled out the Wendell Ford term, Ford went on to the Senate. So I went on to serve 6 Kentucky governors in appointed positions, from the bottom to the top appointed positions. I served as Secretary of the Finance and Administration Cabinet, Secretary of the Tourism Cabinet. I was Commissioner of the Department of the Arts at one point. I've been State Budget Director. And then for 7 years I was Secretary of the Governor's Executive Cabinet, which is in Governor Pat's administration, which is like the Chief Operating Officer for state government. So I had experience at just about every level, and then I ran myself for state auditor and was reelected to a second term. So 8 years I served as state auditor, as the taxpayers' watchdog. And I thought I had retired and was finished. And I was serving on several boards and enjoying some downtime. And Governor Beshear called me when this opportunity opened up in the lieutenant governor's position, because my predecessor, Jerry Abramson, went on to accept a position at the White House, creating a vacancy in the lieutenant governor's job. And this has never happened before, but a governor has the appointing authority when the position becomes vacant. So he asked me if I would consider serving as his lieutenant governor to finish out his term. And when I met with Governor Beshear, he had a sort of list of talking points to convince me. And he got about to number 2, and I said, you can stop selling, I'm in. This is a great opportunity to come back into public service, to serve with Governor Beshear, who I've known for 30 years and have great respect for. So I've had a terrific time serving as lieutenant governor. The governor's been very gracious to include me in every aspect of his administration, all the major public policy issues, and I hope I've been able to add some value to that process because of my background and experience.
Well, it goes without saying that he's certainly made a wise and a very good choice to finish out his term, and we're just glad that you're in that position. And,
well, thank you.
And the changes that we have seen made since you entered office has just been phenomenal, and we're just blessed by that.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words. It's been a great opportunity for me.
Yeah. How are you enjoying your role as Lieutenant Governor?
It's a lot of fun. You know, I'll have to say it's a little more demanding than I thought it would be because the lieutenant governor's role is really determined by the governor. Now that lieutenant governors run together with the governor, you know, that's not always been the case. But it used to be lieutenant governors were sort of in competition with the governor. They ran separately, and now they run as a ticket. So it's the governor who really gives direction to the role the lieutenant governor will play. And in my case, the governor's involved me in so much and asked me to be engaged in so many different ways. We are all over the state. We have a very full schedule nearly every evening as well as full days, and we are traveling all across the state in every corner of the state. So today, for example, we'll speak here in Madisonville at the Kiwanis Club, and then we'll go up to Grayson County, and we'll be involved in an economic development announcement there, and then we'll go back to Lexington for an event there this evening, and then we'll have one more dinner after that. So full days, very busy, but it's all good. And we're trying to keep the state, the governor feels very good right now about where the state is and where we're going. We have a lot of momentum right now. And we want to keep that momentum moving as strongly as we can as we leave office.
And certainly there's no downtime.
No. No, in fact,
until the last day, there's going to be work to do.
That's right. And in fact, when you're in a job like governor or lieutenant governor, you know, it's that sand is running through the hourglass. And you can see the days disappearing so quickly that you've got a lot of things left to do you want to get done, and your time is short. So if anything, we're working harder right now than we ever have.
That leads me into my next question. What is your and what has been your primary focus?
Well, I think my primary role for the governor has been to really be engaged on our health care reform efforts. We're very proud of the fact that Kentucky enthusiastically embraced the opportunity to bring health insurance and health coverage and health access to more Kentuckians. And we are seen as a state now that is in a national leadership role on that. When Congress passed the Affordable Care Act, Governor Beshear embraced it enthusiastically. And so for him, I chaired an initiative called Kentucky Health Now, and it tracks our progress on health care reform. And I talk about that all over the state and try to get people to understand the importance of that. Secondly, I'm very involved in economic development. I've traveled outside of the state to Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, promoting Kentucky, speaking to groups of investors and consultants who can help our economic development efforts, and appearing and participating in economic development events all across the state. Back on the health care reform front, though, this is such a vital issue for Kentucky. We now have over 500,000 Kentuckians who have signed up for health coverage through Connect, our state exchange. And you know, I've been around long enough to know that Kentucky has a tough time sometimes going after our most difficult historic challenges with a kind of sustained way to really turn things around and change it. And Kentucky has had some of the worst statistics for the health of our people for a long time. We're among the worst states in the nation for lung disease, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and we have the highest mortality rate for cancer in America. And those numbers haven't changed in 25 years. So this Affordable Care Act, when it came along, was like an incredible once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to move that needle and to change the health of Kentuckians. So we're really proud of that initiative, and we're working hard to be sure that people not only have access to health coverage, but are using it. We've seen just recently, we released some numbers that showed since we expanded Medicaid, screenings have more than doubled in a lot of the key categories for preventive care: colonoscopies, cervical cancer screenings, prostate screenings. All of those have more than doubled in the Medicaid population because people have access now to get that kind of preventive care. Well, that's the only way you long-term change those outcomes and create a healthier population. And a healthier population is more than just it's not just a nice thing to do. It actually makes us more competitive. It gives us a stronger workforce. It puts us on the map nationally in terms of a place where you can come and find plenty of healthy, well-qualified, prepared people, because we're also combining our health reform initiatives with training and educational efforts. we've got to be a healthier state if we're
Yes.
going to have a stronger economy in the
Mhm.
future. And that's what we're doing now. We can finally begin to see a change in those statistics that have plagued us for so long. We're already, for example, we can document that we've dropped the number of cancer deaths just last year. So I'm very proud of that effort. I'm very involved in that for the governor, and we'll keep talking about that right up to the day we leave office. It's become a sort of political football nationally and in Kentucky, and my argument on that is people's health shouldn't be a political issue. You know, cancer doesn't seek out Republicans or Democrats. Heart disease doesn't go looking for conservatives or liberals. It's really all about all of us together trying to understand the value of a healthier population and doing whatever it takes to move that needle.
And Kentuckians stand in the forefront of needing this
Yes.
kind of health care
Yes,
because of the issues that face us.
that's right. And, you know, it all goes hand in hand. I mean, if our economy continues to improve the way it's improving today, we'll have fewer people who need health care subsidies or who need Medicaid because they'll move into being more productive citizens. But if they've got bad health and poverty and a lack of education, they're never going to break out of that cycle unless we as a state really create opportunities for better training and education and better health. And it all goes hand in hand.
Yes, it does. Economic development, jobs, we're seeing across the state the job rate dropping,
Yes.
which is good. Where are we now with that?
Well, now, statewide, we're at 5.2% unemployment rate, and the really good news is we were at over 11% at the height of the recession, so we've cut it in half. But the really good news is we have been better than the national average for a full year. Now, normally in Kentucky, we have lagged behind in an economic recovery. When there's a recession, Kentucky, because we've had historic economic problems, it takes longer to come out of that recession. This time, we're ahead of the curve. We're actually, our unemployment rate has been better than the national average for a full year. And so that really speaks well to the fact that we are creating a better quality workforce. Our educational efforts are paying off. We're getting more people successfully through high school and into training and post-secondary programs. This, you know, here in Madisonville, you've got great improvements in the local economy, some new investments, some new job creation. We don't have an equal recovery from the recession in every part of the state. That's the challenge we face as a state because we still got some pockets where very, very difficult challenges, especially in the East. The Eastern coal economy is much worse than the Western coal economy. We've lost 7,000 jobs in the East. So we're trying hard over there to create new opportunities that are really preparing that region for a different kind of future that's not totally dependent on coal. So Kentucky is, you know, we've got different issues and strategies in different parts of the state, but overall, things are going very well and we're moving in the right direction.
And that's always good, very good when we're able to do that. I know that you've always been a supporter of human and civil rights, and here in Kentucky, being a member of the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights, I know that's one thing with Governor Beshear and with you and the administration, your support of that and the importance of that. Speak a little bit about your thoughts on, as we see today's issues that evolve here, not only in the state of Kentucky, but across our nation. Your thoughts on human and civil rights.
Well, I think you have to go back to the very beginnings of this country and remember that we are a country that was founded on the principle that all men are created equal. And we have to continue to evolve and improve how we implement that principle in today's world. Because in so many ways we've made progress, in so many other ways we've still got a long way to go. Still too much disparity. For example, just in the last week, some statistics came out that talked about income levels for African Americans falling. And so the disparity being wider for minority income and economic success. We've got to think of new and creative ways to be sure we're lifting up every part of society and giving everyone that equal access. And it's not just minorities. We have to We've just had this recent controversy over gay marriage and the clerk in Rowan County and the conflict over issuing of licenses. We've got, as a society, to continue to look for ways to be sure that everyone is treated equally under the law. And it's so important to the state having the kind of long-term prosperity and success.
That's right. We talked about health care, which is, as you said, one of the top priorities of the Beshear administration. What are some of the other priorities that you think that have been met and is still trying to be met?
Well, as we see increasing employment in Kentucky, and some counties, in fact, with numbers so low it's actually at full employment, our next big challenge is to be sure that our workforce has the skills that businesses need. Right now, we've got a lot of businesses who are creating jobs and they can't find people to fill those jobs. They can't find employees who have the proper skill level, and our epidemic of drug abuse in so many parts of the state has made people ineligible for jobs. They can't pass a drug test. So we've got to fight that battle, which we've been doing with some new legislation that attacks the heroin problem, for example, and 2 years before that, the pill mill problem. So we're dealing with that drug issue, but the governor's really put a high emphasis on training our workforce, and I think that'll be a challenge for the next governor. Is we got a lot of people who still need work, we got a lot of businesses who are healthy and creating jobs. We got to bridge that gap in between to be sure that folks are getting the training they need. So workforce development's a big issue that remains. We've made some significant progress creating some new apprenticeship programs, for example, we have an initiative called Kentucky Fame, where it started with Toyota, but it's now spreading across the state, where young people can find a relationship with a manufacturing facility, and they work so many days a week and go to school so many days a week. At the end of 2 years, they end up with an associate degree and a job. But they're learning on the job as they go. We've got to be thinking about more ways to do those kinds of things so we can get young people especially into a career path where they're developing job skills that fit with the needs of businesses. So I think that's a big priority for us now, but I think it'll have to be a top priority for a new governor coming in, because the economy, just 3 years ago, we were crying for new jobs. Now we're crying for the skilled employees to fill the new jobs. So we've got to be sure we're matching that up. We have to continue to try to lift up the parts of the state that are being left out of our economic progress. And I've mentioned eastern Kentucky, but there are also pockets in western and southern Kentucky where we have to continue to look for ways for every community to participate in this economy, and every part of every community. And I think that for a state as diverse as ours, that continues to be a challenge, because we've got some rural areas that are still isolated from the economic mainstream. And, just a generation ago, you could earn a decent living in Kentucky without a high school diploma. You could work in heavy manufacturing in Louisville at GE or Ford. You could work in coal mining. You could work in tobacco. There were lots of ways you could earn a decent living without a high school degree. Those jobs don't exist anymore. Everything that results in a quality job requires education, and not just high school, but some level of post-education training or post-secondary education. So that's a continuing challenge for us, lifting people's aspirations up, their vision of where they might fit into the future, and building in a stronger respect for education and getting more young people to understand you've got to have that. I run into kids now who say, well, I don't need to go on to school, I can get a job at McDonald's. Well, you can't raise a family working in a low-level service job. You just can't do it. So you've got to have that continuing skill development and training and post-secondary education. So that's another big challenge, I think, for us going forward, is to keep lifting young people up. Now, the good news is our high school graduation rate, which used to be among the worst in the country, is now at 86%. And that makes us 10th in the nation. That's partly because more and more young people recognize the value of completing their education in this new economy, this knowledge-based economy. But it's also because we passed legislation that the governor really spearheaded that raised the dropout age to 18. And not only is that a legal requirement, but it really helped instill in a lot of families and a lot of students, you've got to stay in school.
Sure.
You know, culturally and educationally and economically, it makes sense. So that's a real important advance for us, that we have now got more kids successfully finishing high school. And while they're in high school, we got to get them focused on continuing to get additional education and training.
And it's so important to do that. It's so important to do that. And here in Madisonville, Western Kentucky, the Madisonville Community College, as you know,
Yes.
under the leadership of Dr. Rhodes, I think it stands in the forefront of post-secondary education and that type of thing.
The Madisonville Community and Technical College is one of the real leaders in the state.
Yes.
And Dr. Rhodes has been a terrific leader. I think that here, as well as anywhere in the state, there is a great relationship between the local business community and what their needs are, and the community college and what it is teaching and what it is training young people to do and how they're engaged with the community. And that's so important. These community colleges have to be that place that is flexible enough to respond to the local economy and to the local business leadership, and to be sure that they are being relevant to the kinds of jobs that the economy here is going to produce in the future. So yes, Madisonville Community College, just an outstanding example of an engine for the local economy and the regional economy.
Yes. When we look at basically talking a little bit about co-severance, and throughout the state, we're seeing the co-severance money beginning to somewhat dry up. Where are we with that, and how can these communities reconnect, or what is the future of that?
Well, the coal severance tax has played an important role in every coal county, everywhere there's coal production, and I think it has been a really important revenue stream that has helped to support so many different aspects of those communities. I think the future is going to be different. I think we clearly are seeing changes in the coal economy. The market forces are changing, the regulatory environment is changing, and unfortunately, I don't see any specific replacement for the coal severance. I think it means we've got to think differently and creatively about how we build different opportunities, because if your economy is growing, you're going to have other revenues coming in to your local government and to your state government, and that's our focus, is to try to keep this economy growing and looking for every opportunity, because the coal severance money has been an important lifeline for a lot of communities, and I don't think you can assume it's going to be there long term at the same levels, certainly.
And I think that's what has happened to so many. They kind of take it for granted that it's always there.
Right.
And things change, life change. And so, as you said, we have to think out of the box. There's other ways.
How do we build the economy in other ways? Now, coal will always be important in Kentucky as long as there's coal to be mined. There's no question about that. But I think if you look realistically at where the trends have been, we can see that the future is not going to be what the past has been in terms of local communities being able to access those types of revenues. So we've got to think, we've got to try to engage as many community leaders around the state in this process too, to be sure we're thinking that we're getting the thinking of the business leadership as well as the public leaders. I know you serve in a public elected office, and you think about this every day, but it's really important we get the business leadership engaged in thinking about what does the future hold? How do we prepare our communities and our regions of the state? Each region of Kentucky has a little different set of challenges and opportunities, and we've got to think through how do we build on those opportunities.
Lieutenant Governor, we just, as you know, Kentucky is a large Catholic population, and we've just been watching as the Pope, His Holiness, came to the United States and talked about a lot of issues and has shared his presence with thousands and thousands of people What are your thoughts on the Pope and his visit here?
I have really been moved by his visit.
Yes.
I'm not a Catholic personally, but I'm a Christian. And I watched his message. I haven't been able to watch, late at night when I get in, I try to see the recaps of what he said. So I've seen a little of what he said to Congress, and I've seen a little of the services that he held. I did see what he said in his homily last night at St. Patrick's Cathedral. I think the Pope's message is one that all of us should take to heart, no matter what our religious background is.
Yes.
Because what he talked about is trying to find ways to move forward together.
Mm-hmm.
And, in leaning on, in his case, the teachings of Jesus Christ and caring for our fellow man and reaching out to the poor and giving of ourselves. And I hope his message resonated in Congress yesterday, because we see so much acrimony and so much finger pointing and so much bipartisan bickering going on. And I think his message was, let's get the job done. Let's deal with some of these really difficult problems we face, figure out a way to move forward together. I've been very moved watching it.
Oh, so have I.
And if I were Catholic and had become disenchanted with my church, I think I'd go back to church. But there's something about him that is so humble.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so lacking in ego, and he doesn't want any part of all the trappings.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to deliver a message. And I think that's been, in my mind, a good way for the whole leadership of this country to stop and take a deep breath and let's think about what this man said.
That's right. And I don't think his papalship here at this particular time in our world's history is by accident.
Uh-huh.
I think God ordains certain people for certain times.
Well, his message certainly resonates at this time.
It does.
And I think it's been, for me, in public service and dealing with all the day-to-day chaos and conflict of what goes on, it's been a really nice way to stop and just remember what it's all about. It's about looking out for our fellow man.
Yeah.
It's about trying to find ways that we can reach each other, understand each other, deal with some of the difficult problems we face in ways that actually result in the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've heard him say. Whether or not you agreed with every issue he touched on, I think his point was a very profound point, no matter what your religious beliefs are. And I think his message appeals to any religion.
Yes.
And he's been pretty remarkable to watch.
Absolutely. We're about to wind down, but a long and prosperous career, and we can thank Wendell Ford for planting this seed. The great Wendell Ford, great statesman of Western Kentucky. And what is in the future for our Lieutenant Governor? I know that a lot of people were really hoping and praying that you would make that step to run for governor in this coming term. But what are some of your thoughts, and what's on the outlook for you?
Well, let me say one more thing about Wendell Ford as I answer that question. Wendell Ford went on to be a mentor to me for 40 years after he gave me that first advice. And I went to see him 3 weeks before he passed away.
Wow.
In January, this past January. And
Great man.
Oh, he was remarkable. And I said to him then, boss, I'm sitting in your old chair in the lieutenant governor's office. What's your advice for me? And he said, you don't need my advice anymore. So his family asked me to say the closing prayer at the memorial service at the Capitol, and that was very moving because I had started out with him as just a kid, and he gave me time and attention and stayed a mentor through my life. My career, has been remarkably rewarding. I've been so fortunate to be in so many places where I had great opportunities and great folks opening doors for me. When I decided not to run for governor, it was a very personal decision. My husband and I just decided at this point in our lives it was not a step we wanted to take because we are at a stage where we've got a lot of things we want to do with our family and a lot of wonderful grandchildren and relationships in both sides of our families. And But you know, I never expected this door to open to be serving as lieutenant governor, so who knows what the future holds.
Right.
I've enjoyed this very much, and I hope I can continue to contribute to the state in whatever way that seems to work out for me. And on the other hand, my husband would like very much for me to come home. So, you know, it's been a very rewarding career, and I owe a great deal to Governor Beshear for giving me another opportunity to step back in.
Well, we're certainly glad that you have done so well and that you mean so much to not only Western Kentucky, but across this Commonwealth.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's an honor to be here, and it's always great to visit with you.
Well, that's the same here. We have been speaking with the Honorable Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Lieutenant Governor Crit Luallen. She has been our guest, and we hope that you will tune in to our next program and be a part of Focus on Hopkins County. I'm your host, Tim Thomas. By all means, keep sharing the dream.